Well, the Trump administration was very close to launching major military strikes on the nation of Iran last week. At the very last minute, though, the president pulled back, and thank goodness he did. Instead of being praised for one of the best decisions he's made so far as president, Trump has come under attack for that. On the right, radio show host Hugh Hewitt accused the president of being a weakling for not launching $1 trillion war over a broken robot. Listen.
Let's go to what the president did yesterday. I've been very critical of it this morning. I call it a U-turn, the red line redux.
I think that it's very important for all of our decision makers to recognize that weakness is provocative, and that, a world in which the response to attacks on American assets is to pull back or to accept the attack is a world in which America won't be able to successfully defend our interests.
So Iran's going to invade New Jersey because we haven't started a war with them. All right. Democratic presidential candidates, meanwhile, have denounced the president. Also, hard to see how, but they have. Try to follow the reasoning.
From the very beginning of his presidency, taking a belligerent course of escalation and provocation with Iran. I mean, we pulled out of an anti-nuclear deal that gave us complete transparency into their nuclear program.
It's like somebody setting a fire to a basket full of paper and then putting it out. He helped create the crisis, and then he stopped the attacks.
There is no question in my mind that the current occupant of the White House, President Trump, put in place a series of events that led to that event.
Yeah, that's Kamala Harris's position. If you can understand what it is, she can't. So it isn't Trump, though, who's eager to start a war with country after country. It's the rest of official Washington, obviously, starting with the National Security Advisor, John Bolton. The president himself pointed that out, believe it or not, on Meet the Press over the weekend. Watch this.
I have two groups of people. I have doves and I have hawks.
Yeah, you have some serious
hawks. I have
hawks.
some hawks. Yeah, John Bolton is absolutely a hawk. It's up to him. He'd take on the whole world at one time, okay?
Presidents aren't typically that straightforward and honest. He's a liar. Well, okay. He was certainly honest there. Jim Antle is an editor at the American Conservative. He is the editor, actually. He just published a great piece calling the president's decision on Thursday, quote, "The night Donald Trump became president." Jim Antle joins us tonight. Jim, great to see you tonight. So,
good to see you, Tucker.
Here you have a president pulling back from war and is attacked basically by everybody, both sides. What is going on?
Well, the incentive structure in Washington is entirely biased in favor of war. So when President Trump bombed Syria without congressional authorization twice, we had pundits saying that that was the night Donald Trump became president, that this showed he's a real commander-in-chief. And all of these people who otherwise would say that Trump is this reckless and out-of-control chief executive are doing nothing to constrain him, nothing to restrain him, nothing to enforce Congress's constitutional prerogatives, and that includes a lot of the Democrats. So you have people on the Never Trump right and in the Democratic Party who say that Trump is unfit to command, he's unfit to be president, yet they want him to oversee a major war in a country larger than Iraq. They're disappointed that he didn't commence the attacks, and they seem to think that there's no inconsistency to that without even there being a permanent Secretary of Defense confirmed by the Senate. Totally bizarre to me.
So maybe they feel that way because they understand that the war would be prosecuted and, in fact, is being pushed by people who have nothing to do with Trump, who, in fact, hate Trump and his vision, and that this would, in fact, be a triumph of permanent Washington over the voters.
It would be a triumph of permanent Washington. I mean, the polling shows that when the voters actually understand what is at stake and that we'd be risking a full-scale war, that they don't want this. That, yes, they don't want a nuclear Iran, but they prefer diplomacy to war. And we've seen over the last decade and a half war after war after war where the things that we set out to do to keep America safer from Islamists were not accomplished, where we've seen Islamist forces become more powerful than they were before, and where we've seen results even in cases like where we did have a militarily necessary response to 9/11 in Afghanistan. But from Afghanistan all the way through Yemen, we've seen results that I don't think very many Americans are pleased with. And so for Washington to be baying for a repeat in Iran while criticizing the president is totally incongruous to me.
Very quickly, Jim, will you confirm something for me? Isn't it
Sure.
the same people who are pushing us to war in the Middle East who are also telling us we have to accept the populations of the country in the Middle East coming to our country? How does that work?
It's a very strange concept where we can't enforce our own borders, but we can redraw the borders of every country in the Middle East, that we can create democracies in the Middle East. And we're sort of invading and inviting the world here at the same time. So it's definitely a little bit of a head scratcher, but it does make sense to people in Washington.
It's almost like they're trying to destroy our country. It's funny. Jim Ansell, great to see you.
Good to see you.